buzzing through the walls, making their honey and singing their song. They say I work for the queen all day. Yeah, I work for the queen all day.
Hello, the hive. It's Angela here again, Queen Bee, the Queen Bee's Hive. We are talking chapter 4, The Women Will Hay a Fit. And this is another short chapter. It's told from Bree's perspective, who goes with Ian and Jamie to meet Rachel and the baby. So another meeting of people meeting people for the first time. And seeing Jenny again, too, which was quite a thing. And so this is another short chapter, but boy, is it a really darling, sweet, wonderful chapter. It has a few key things in it, I think, that's worth talking about. We open with Ian wanting Bree to come to the cabin, and he says, "Would you come aside to the cabin, cousin?" Ian said, looking uncharacteristically shy. "In case Rachel might be back, I'd like you to meet her. I'd love to meet her," Bree said. And smiling at him and meant it. And she lifted an eyebrow at her father, but he nodded that, yeah, okay, well, let's go in. I could use it. Put this crap down and get some drink in me, because he's still all screwed up from being involved with this attack, and so you can see in that little clip Ian's pride here. It's showing Bree, his wife and baby, and it's just so cute. You can kind of see he's all brimming and excited to show her his wife and baby. And so they come up to the house, and there's, they see a spinning wheel there, and they see stuff there to be spun, but they see nobody spinning. Instead, they hear the women singing inside in Gaelic, and then every couple of lines they break off laughing. And then there's one person, singing the line over and over again, and the other one stumbling over, trying to figure it out, and laughing again, And so Jamie is like smiling, and he explains that Jenny is teaching Rachel the Gaelic. And he sits down the deer, and this is where we get the title of the chapter. He says, "The women will hay a fit, if we bring flies into the house." So that's where the chapter title comes in. But it's really all of the women meeting, Bree meeting, seeing Jenny again, and meeting Rachel for the first time. So we hear that Jenny is teaching Rachel Gaelic, which I think is so cute, and I'm really glad to see that Rachel and her mother-in-law seem to be getting along well, because you kind of know that Ian's her baby, you know what I mean? Ian is Jenny's baby, and you kind of get a feeling like she's kind of protective over him a little bit, and so it's kind of nice that Rachel seems to be getting along well with Jenny, which I love. So they hear him inside, and they come out, and so here's from Bree's perspective. She says, "A tallish, very pretty, dark-haired girl popped out, hopped off the porch, grabbing Ian around the middle in an exuberant embrace. This instantly returned." And she's like, "My cousins have come. Does thee know?" And he says, I do, kissing her mouth. "Come say hello to my cousin Brianna McGry." And he says, "Oh, and Uncle Jamie too." And so Bree was already smiling to meet her, and she was very moved by seeing the love between Ian and Rachel already. And she looked at her father. Her father was smiling at it as well, and then all of a sudden the door opens again. Out comes Jenny, and she has the baby. And it's just like all the feels, all the love, it's just so sweet. And when Jenny comes out, she's like, "Who?" And then all of a sudden, this was funny, all of a sudden she sees Brianna, and her mouth drops open, and she says, "Blessed bride, protect us." She says, like, with this warmth in her eyes, and she says, The giants have come, and your husband too, they say, and him even taller than yourself, lass. And you have bairns too, they say, all of them springing up like weeds, I reckon. Toadstools, Bree said, and laughing, and bent down to hug her diminutive aunt. So I love the giant line. I laughed at the giant line from Jenny. I think Jenny is modeled a lot after Diana herself. And Diana always calls Sam and Kat that. Whenever she's seeing them, she's like, "Oh, here I am with the giants again," and stuff like that. So she always refers to them that way. So it kind of gave me a little chuckle to read it in the text. And it's really nice to see this warmer side of Jenny. This her kind of really enjoying her grandmotherhood with Ian. Her joking and playing with Rachel, singing Gaelic songs, laughing, trying to teach her Gaelic. Her cracking jokes at Bree. Just really cute. Also note, there's no Roger here with this meeting with Jenny. So that's now put off longer. So I guess we're building up that anticipation, Diana, just keeping us hanging in suspense. Brianna says, Jenny smelled of goats, fresh wool, porridge, and toasted yeast bread, and a faint scent in her hair and clothes that Bree had long forgotten, but recognized instantly as the soap Jenny had made at Lollybrock, with honey and lavender and a Highland herb that had no name in English, which I'm curious what that is. And she says, "It's so good to see you," and felt tears in her eyes, for the soap brought back Lollybrock as she'd first seen it. And with that ghost, another stronger one behind it, the ghost of her own Lollybrock. So you get this whole double full circle coming around when Brianna first saw Lollybrock, and now her remembering her last time she saw Lollybrock, when it was hers. And now, like, all of that's embodied in her seeing Jenny, which is really lovely, I just love this. It's just like all the feels. Bree offers her condolences for Big Ian's death. And we get this really sweet line again, another heart sweet line from Jenny. Jenny looks down, patting the baby's tender back. He had a downy head of brown blonde fuzz, like a guinea hen's chick. She says, "Ox," she said softly, "my Ian's with me still. I can see him in this weean's face, clear as day." So it's really cute. OGGY looks like Ian, which means he probably looks like his father as well, because we know Ian looks like Ian. And then it says, OGGY turned toward his mother's voice and kept on turning, leaning out of Jenny's arms like a sloth drawn ineluctably toward sweet fruit. And Rachel gathered him up, gently touching his cheek, turning his head again slowly, and started suckling on her knuckle. And so we get this. It's great writing here, through all of this chapter. We see really excellent writing from Diana. And it's also nice to see this picture of Rachel in mom mode, which we haven't really seen yet. Her as a mom and how she is with the baby. So this is kind of our first chance to kind of see that in her. And I think she's being a good mom. You can see how she adores this little baby. And so then they kind of bust on, you get this little cute interchange about the name of the baby. And, Bree's like, his name's OGGY, right? And she says, yeah. They kind of chuckle, and Rachel says, well, Ian says we have, that's the name until, they get older and they kind of gel around their own name. And, Jenny is not pleased with that situation at all. You get this idea that she is not pleased. And she's like, you mean to tell me that the Baron's going to be OGGY until when? And Rachel's like, oh no, I'm sure I'll think of something before when. And she smiled at her mother-in-law, who rolled her eyes and turned her attention back to Brianna. I'm glad you didn't have such trouble with your own bairns in the end. Jamie said in his letters they're called Jeremiah and Amanda. Is that right? And Brianna coughed, avoiding Rachel's eye, and she says, Jeremiah Alexander Ian Fraser McKenzie and Amanda Claire Hope McKenzie. And Jenny nodded approvingly, whether at the quality or the quantity of the names. I love that. I love Jenny here with her little smart assedness, and Brianna listing all the names like that. Is it to stay in Jenny's good graces and gain her approval by listing those names? Is she one-upping her cousin? I don't know. Or is it just a matter of her own pride in her kids' names? I don't know. But it kind of seemed like there was a little, like she's avoiding looking at Rachel to tell her because she doesn't want, she doesn't want to ruffle any feathers. So it was really cute. And then Jamie calls out and says, yells for Jenny, I can't find a beer. And Jenny's like, we drank it. And he's like, oh. And so then he looks back and he's looking for something else to drink. And he's leaving little bloody footprints around the house. And Jenny asks what happened to him. This was hilarious. Jenny asks what happened to him and looks at the bloody footprints and looks at Brianna, who said, a bear. And she said, oh. And then she kind of thought about it and she said, I guess I ought to let him have the beer then. And she disappeared, so she lied to him about drinking all the beer. She just didn't want to give it to him, and then she felt guilty about it when she saw the bloody footprints. I laughed so hard when I read that. Anyway, I thought that was so cute. So now we get this little interesting interchange between Brianna and Rachel. And Brianna says, I don't think I've ever met a Quaker before. And she's kind of feeling awkward because she's trying to feel out what's the right way to act, what's the right thing to say. But Rachel's just so easygoing, so whatever, And she says, is Quaker the right word, by the way? I don't want to, say the wrong. And she says, we say friend. Quaker's not offensive, though. I think thee must have met at least one. Thee just doesn't know because the friend chose not to use plain speech in talking with thee. Most of us don't have stripes, spots, or any other physical mark by which thee might discern us. And Bree's like, most of you? And she says, well, naturally, I can't see my own back, but I'm sure Ian would have told me if there was anything remarkable. And Brianna laughs, and she's, kind of enjoying meeting this new family member of hers, and kind of getting a vibe of her. And she's like, I'm really glad to meet you. I couldn't imagine what sort of girl married Ian. And then she kind of felt like, uh-oh, I shouldn't have said it because it's that doesn't sound right. But then Rachel just goes, oh no, thee is right. She says, no, thee is right. I couldn't have imagined marrying a man like him either, but there he is in my bed each morning. Nonetheless, they do say the Lord moves in his mysterious ways. Come into the house. I know where the wine is. So it's just so funny. And I think you kind of can see these two could be really good friends. You could see them totally hitting it off. It's so funny. And I think Bree, in this little interchange, is definitely seeing her father's point about how Rachel is, how she says what's in her mind. My final thoughts on this chapter, it was just, I think Brianna thought this was not what she expected. This was not the Quaker image in her brain. And I think Bree already likes her new cousin by marriage, already sees this, this wasn't what she expected. But hey, Bree, you can't judge a book by its cover. And you get the feeling that they're going to have a nice connection. And I'm impressed that Rachel is so at ease immediately with Brianna, because most people feel a little intimidated when they meet Bree. Between her size and her bold vibe and her, brashness, and everything. And plus, on top of that, Rachel has the little bit of pressure because she knows how much Ian adores his cousin. like Bree is his favorite cousin, and she has to know that. And she also knows their history. She knows at one point he asked her to marry him, to like help her to rescue her out of this situation, and all of this type of stuff. So she knows like this is an important person to her husband. And so that might automatically make you kind of feel like you want to watch how you're acting and saying, but Rachel just doesn't give an F, like Rachel just kind of puts herself out there and says, this is me, ABC's of me, deal with it, this is who I am. And she's very comfortable. So I think that, I kind of think they're going to be good friends, but I don't know. But you kind of get a vibe like I wouldn't want to be the people messing with Rachel and Bree as a team. I definitely wouldn't want to be that person. So in the comments, let me know what you thought about this chapter, your favorite lines. What did you think of this peek at Jenny and Rachel's relationship, and what are your impressions of Rachel and Brianna's meeting? And that's all I have for this one. This is a quickie, but I wanted to get these both posted tonight. I'm still uploading the last one, so this one's getting posted up tonight as well, and then we'll work on 5 and hopefully 6 tomorrow. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully I can get it all done, maybe even 7. We'll see. But we'll see you. Have a good night, everyone. Mwah.